Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 video. So, as I'm sure you've seen from the title, about 6 weeks ago, Bethesda kindly invited me down to their offices in London to get a first look at the upcoming Ghoul player class type, the playable Ghoul that will be entering the game in March. And yeah, I have been struggling to stay quiet on this one for the last few weeks. I'm really happy to be able to talk about it, because I had a really great time, so very, very grateful for the invite on that one. Before I get into too many details and discuss my thoughts on what I saw, I'm sure you want to know, first up, that the Ghoul will be hitting the public test server on Friday the 20th of December, so that's tomorrow as of time this goes live, which is really, really cool. So yeah, definitely excited for that one. We're definitely going to have to check that one out on stream, I think. Yes, as usual, PTS is open to anybody who plays Fallout 76 via Steam, obviously on PC. If you're not on Steam, then I'm sure myself and others will be checking this one out, because this is pretty cool and very, very excited for this particular update. So, yeah, I got to check this out for around and about an hour or so. We did a few other bits and pieces, got to look at a few other things as well. But obviously this was the highlight. So, yeah, very, very cool to get to try that out first. We're playing an alpha build, so very early, obviously way before it hits the PTS kind of stage, but I've got to say, I was impressed at how well it was holding up at the time. It could easily have been a PTS build. I wouldn't have known the difference, so that bodes well for what's coming over the next few months. So yeah, quick overview in general. Obviously, this comes up when you hit level 50, so it's sort of a late game thing, and once you turn to level 50, you'll be able to turn it into a Ghoul, which is the first time we've been able to do that in a Fallout game, so yeah, very hyped for it from that sense as well. And it does have quite a new playing experience. Obviously, there's visual changes. Once you become cool, you basically go through character creation again and redesign your face and your look, because, well, it's quite the big change. So yeah, definitely cool to check that out. Some of the other highlights being, of course, that instead of being harmed by radiation, rads basically do the opposite now and will heal you, so that's cool if you become a Ghoul. And they also are fundamental to powering a number of the new sort of perks and sort of Ghoul-centric abilities that will come with being a Ghoul in Fallout 76 come this update. So yeah, if you decide you don't like it, and I'm sure some people will, because it's definitely not going to be for everybody, then the option to revert to human form does exist. There is a laws-friendly kind of setup around that, or specific to these circumstances, and an in-world explanation for how that works. I can't tell you what that is, though, as in my limited playtime, it wasn't something I got to try out. So we know it's there, and it's built in and designed to work with the law of this particular situation. But we'll have to wait and see until somebody decides they want to convert back, I guess. It'd be interesting to see how that actually does pan out. I assume you get the option to see what goes on with it and then not actually go through with the conversion back, but again, we'll have to wait until it hits the PTS. So the playable Ghoul starts off with a new leading quest, as often is the case with stuff like this. Basically, it's the story that leads up to the player getting the option to transform into a Ghoul, and Bethesda asked us not to record any of this, basically to avoid spoilers, I think, which is fair enough. Obviously, once it hits the PTS, spoilers will abound, but still, for now, we can avoid that. In general, once you pass that level 50 mark, or as soon as you log in after the update, if you're already past it, then you'll get a distress signal on your Pip-Boy, and that will come through the radio asking you to help somebody in need out, and that will kick off the whole quest line and obviously open up the directions that you would normally get for a quest. And yeah, it's not the longest quest. It's not short, but it's fairly, it steps along at a fair clip. And it gives you a little bit of an introduction towards what life is like as a Ghoul, which is interesting, and the experiences of people who are already Ghouls, and the things they have to do to survive, and so on and so forth. Obviously, there's a lot of fear and discrimination, and certain groups shoot on sight, for example. And obviously, with Ghouls being a relatively new phenomenon at the time of Fallout 76, only some 20 years after the bombs dropped, people are not handling it as well as they could on occasion. So yeah, lots of fear, lots of discrimination. And all of this leads into a very kind of dark tone, especially compared to a lot of what else is in Fallout 76. In terms of the quests and the style of it. There are moments of that in there already, but this is pretty grim in places. So, yeah, definitely not a happy quest line, to say the least. So one of the cool things about the update is that it slightly expands the map again. I really do want to emphasize this slightly because, yeah, it's really just a little bit of extra space to fit in a few new locations. But we have got a few new locations to explore. There's a couple of quest-related things that I'm not going into too much detail here. But in particular, there is a settlement called Radiant Hills that is basically the home of the ghouls. It's functionally somewhat similar to, say, Foundation or Crater, but it's obviously ghoul-centric and is unique in that way. It is built around a previously undiscovered missile silo that has fallen into disrepair and is in a bad way. And the site basically, it's where you go to get ghoulified as well, unsurprisingly. It is the central point for the ghouls. And the site's built both inside the silo itself and on an above-ground area around the sort of military structures near the entrance to the launch shaft. So, yeah, interesting location. Definitely leans into the ghouls and radiation. And given the background radiation in the area, not a place to hang out if you're not a ghoul either. So, quite cool in that regard. It kind of protects itself in a way. At least as far as humans are concerned. Not so much from irradiated wasteland denizens, I'm sure. So the place has a whole bunch of new characters as well, and wandering around and exploring this place was pretty darn cool. I didn't spend a vast amount of time talking to people, but I'm looking forward to getting really into the nuance of that sort of later on. So that should be good fun. There's some interesting characters, different personalities, some people who seem to handle their situation better than others, and are happy about it than others, as you can probably imagine. There is the head of security is a chap named Asher, who... amongst other things, is involved in your lead-in quest. He's also, it looks like, going to be involved in potentially repeatable daily-type content. Again, not something I got to try out. But basically you do supply raids for the settlement and help them get whatever they need to continue surviving. He is the guy who organises that, so it'll be something to look into again when it hits the PTS very, very soon. And, for example, there's another person called Jay who is involved in the disguise system. So you may know from previous announcements regarding the ghoul that there will be a disguise system that allows you to interact with factions that don't normally have a positive view of ghouls. So particularly the Brotherhood of Steel, for example, is out there already. They shoot on sight. So if you want to do Steel Dawn, Steel Rain, or that Brotherhood questline you haven't already, or just simply want to visit Fort Atlas, for any particular reason, you wouldn't be able to do that as a ghoul without disguising your identity. So this character Jay will be a key part in allowing that to happen. So yeah, that should be an interesting thing to dive into as well, to see how they've pulled that one off. But yeah, as a settlement, it's definitely got this kind of barely hanging on vibe to it. Ghouls who've been pushed out of society and who are very much us and them. The whole dynamic of this update, or particularly around the faction of ghouls, will be that their relationship with other factions and the discrimination and stuff they face, and how you fit into that and how other factions fit into that. So it's a really, really cool topic and something that's going to be interesting to dive into. So obviously every other time we encounter ghouls, it's sort of some 200 plus years later, especially in the more recent games. So you've got people who are used to the idea of ghouls, even if they don't entirely have a positive view. It's not got the same kind of strength of feeling, really, in some ways, although some exceptions. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing to dive into. I'm finding it pretty cool the direction they've chosen to take with this one. So, obviously, we know there is a whole host of new ghoul-related perks. We've seen a few of them before, but we can now have a little look at quite a bunch of them. I'll throw a bunch on screen for you so you can have a look. But yeah, there's some really cool ones in here. There is a heavy lean in this towards melee, but it's not exclusive. There are perks that apply to other builds as well, which is really cool. I think personally for myself, I'll check out the melee side of things because it's, with a few more recent exceptions, it's kind of been an underutilized thing, and it's certainly something I've not used a lot of, so it's going to be an interesting take on that, and it will really change up the playstyle as well. So on top of the perks that go down that road, there's perks that allow you to make better use of rads. You can become irradiated more quickly because that's how you heal, rather than through the usual methods. And rads also, as I said before, empower certain perks, and they become stronger the more irradiated you become. And there are also sort of other benefits tied in here. For example, there's a perk that prevents you from being staggered, which as a quality of life thing alone is worthwhile, let alone as something to maybe work into a build. But one of the other cool things about the radiation side of it and the ghoul's relationship with it is the ability to use radiation to empower other things as well. For example, as you heal from radiation, you'll hit up to 100% health. If you keep on taking rads after that, you'll start to glow. Quite literally, you'll become a glowing one, basically. It's a temporary thing, and it's sort of a reserve of energy, kind of reserve of radiation energy that you can draw upon to, again, further enhance your attacks, and also have other effects as well, such as if you're playing in a group with other ghoul characters and you are glowing, you will impart some of your radiation to them, healing them, and also moving them closer towards that glowing state as well, and the other benefits that come with that. So obviously, if you're not exposed to rads, that declines over time, especially as you use it and consume some of that glowing energy. So it's a thing to keep maintained so that you can empower yourself further. It's an interesting thing, and obviously you glow. So that's always a fun vibe. It's the same kind of glow you see on some legendary enemies, but with a little less sort of smoke and mist and stuff around it. It's quite a fun concept. We also know that ghouls can go feral, which is an interesting take because throughout the sort of Fallout canon, the wider Fallout canon, there's different positions on that. You know, we've seen a version of it in the TV show, and we've seen different relationships with the possibility of non-feral ghouls going feral in, say, Fallout 3 and Fallout 4, in that everybody's afraid it's going to happen, but we don't actually see it happen in those games. Whereas here, obviously, you absolutely can. It's a temporary state, however, in this case, and the screen will turn red, and this is a really key area for leaning into melee with, because your ranged attacks will become less effective as you become kind of more rabid, and your melee attacks will become significantly more damaging, which is interesting to try out, I think. It's going to be fun. It seems so far I've had a limited ability, I should say, here to actually engage with this, because there's quite a bit to this, and I was only there for a few hours. It seems to be tied to your chem use, so the more chems you use, the sooner you go feral, essentially, and you can kind of push yourself over that line deliberately. There is supposed to be a feral meter somewhere, so you can track how close you are to going feral, somewhere in the UI. I couldn't actually spot that. I don't know if I was just overlooking it, or it's something that maybe needs a little adjustment to make it a little easier to find, but it is there somewhere. Definitely something to experiment with, again, once PTS comes out. And the whole screen turns red when you go feral. You really can't miss it, so it's quite the experience. It's very cool. So yeah, in general, that's kind of the stuff I got to have a play around with. Got to have a bit of a dig through the new location and the new perks and things, and test out the build on a few super mutants, which seemed pretty effective on the whole. I think it really needed more time to get to grips with it. So yeah, looking forward to trying that. So my overall thoughts prior to the PTS, which I'm looking forward to diving into soon, are that, yeah, I really enjoyed playing with the new ghoul type. I'm looking forward to taking it for a spin again and pursuing that change of style and atmosphere and tone in the Fallout 76 experience. So that should be cool. As I say, it really does change the feel of the game. New perks, new builds, new powers, essentially, are going to really encourage experimentation. So if you, like me, have been playing the game for a very long time and perhaps want to change your experience, freshen up your build, and do something that it feels quite different to everything you've done before, get out of a rut perhaps, then trying out ghoulification and building up a new character build around that might be a fun way of trying that. So, a fun road to go down. Definitely an interesting one to look at. But yeah, tons to check out. So yeah, all in all, I very much enjoyed playing with the ghoul and exploring this, and I'm looking forward to jumping into the PTS, which again should be going live on the 20th. That should be tomorrow. Obviously that'll probably be late afternoon, tea time-ish, and yeah, keep an eye out because I think we'll jump into that on stream. Spoilers notwithstanding, of course. So yeah, thank you very much to Bethesda for the invite again. Definitely enjoyed that. It's always nice to meet everybody down there and hang out and check out the awesome new stuff coming to Fallout. And thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this one. Hope you're looking forward to the ghoul as much as I am. If you liked the video, please consider dropping subs and likes. I very much appreciate it. Down below, we've got social media links and channel memberships if you want to support the channel that way. And yes, join us for live streams. We'll be checking out the ghoul and more Fallout 76, as well as playing a few other bits and pieces as well, which should be good fun. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.